In the years following the Second World War, Poland struggled to establish its own bus industry. But for immediate relief, one solution was to turn to Icarus for a bus that would last for more than half a decade. One of these buses was a flawed solution, but it paved the way for Poland to perfect its own brand of buses. This is the story of Poland's Icarus 620, the imperfect bus that arrived at the perfect time. Hi, this is Jeffrey. Now, back after the end of the Second World War, Poland struggled to develop its own bus-building industry. In response to that, they brought in many foreign-made buses, usually in small numbers. However, they often turned out to be inadequate for the conditions required in Poland. In the late 1950s, they brought in the Icarus 620, a bus with new and innovative features that paved the way for future buses to be built in Poland. It's a really interesting story, so let's get started in learning about the Icarus 620 of Poland. The first 2 decades after the end of the war in 1945 were very complicated for the Polish automotive industry. But at the same time, for the same reason, it was very diverse. Polish engineers in numerous vehicle factories and centrally managed design offices tried to design basic rail and road vehicles that would be adequate for Polish conditions and needs. The Poles were very affected by the lack of motor vehicles that would satisfy the basic transport needs of its population. Buses, especially city buses, experienced this the worst. Vehicles from domestic manufacturers were not very durable and economical. Most licensed vehicles originating from outside the country were too expensive and complicated to be produced in Polish factories. For this reason, many relatively short series of vehicles from Polish and foreign factories were delivered to Polish cities but were quickly withdrawn for economic reasons. One of the bus manufacturers supplying buses to Polish cities at that time was the Icarus bus factory located in the Matyasfold district of Budapest. This was the factory that supplied the city with Mavag 5TR and Icarus Type 60 vehicles. But Poland still needed a more modern, attractive, and innovative bus. And so, what would this bus be? In 1959, Icarus would introduce the Model 620. Originally built for the Eastern European and Soviet markets, it was an updated version of the Icarus 60B. The Icarus 620 series were the last buses from the Hungarian factory with a frame structure. That is, a division into a body and a chassis similar to that of trucks. The 620 was the most sophisticated possible representative of this type of bus structure at the time. They contained improvements based on experience with previous models of buses from Budapest. The diesel engine was located in the front of the bus above the front axle. Similar to the Jelcz Cucumbers, it was located between the driver's position and the guide's seat. The crew compartment was separated from the passenger compartment by an additional wall and had its own heating system. This improved the comfort of travel for passengers to a certain extent by making the vehicle quieter. In a somewhat unusual configuration, the driver's cabin was accessed through special doors on both sides of the vehicle. Separately, the passengers had 2 pairs of accordion doors, which were automatically operated by the driver. The passenger compartment in the bus had a ventilated interior through the sliding upper parts of almost all side windows and opening roof flaps. Due to the difficult working conditions, the crew cabin was additionally ventilated through special flaps and ventilation holes in the front of the vehicle and operable windows in the doors. In addition, a station for the conductor was built into the rear of the vehicle. It was equipped, among other things, with a special ticket compartment as well as buttons for signaling the driver to stop on request or controlling the lighting. This allowed for very efficient operation to the passengers. Now, let's take a look at some of the basic specifications of the Icarus 620 for Poland. Number 1, length is 9.35 meters. Number 2, width is 2.5 meters. Number 3, height is 2.98 meters. Number 4, empty weight is 8,150 kilograms. Number 5, number of passengers is usually configured for 20 seated and 40 to 50 standing. Number 6, engine is the Sheppel D613.10 of 125 horsepower. And finally, number 7, top speed is 58 kilometers per hour. Unfortunately, despite their many advantages and significantly higher durability compared to domestically produced vehicles, the Icarus 620 buses were not ideal. According to Laszlo Finta, the famed Icarus bus designer, on the shortcomings of the 620,
the long rear overhang and delicate frame were prone to cracking under conditions of constant overload. Attempts to limit the number of standing passengers by installing additional rows of imitation leather seats in the rear of the vehicle led to these buses having a low capacity during rush hour. In addition, the diesel engines used were very sensitive to low temperatures, which often caused problems with starting the vehicles on winter mornings.
A total of 468 examples of the 620 were delivered to 5 Polish cities up to 1970, with Warsaw receiving 172 examples between 1960 and 1962. Despite the greater durability of the Hungarian vehicles, in most Polish fleets they were small in number and were more difficult to service than the newly introduced domestic buses, such as the more than 100 SAN buses in Krakow. For this reason, all Icarus 620 buses in that city were withdrawn from service around 1968. In Poland, only one Icarus 620 had survived, which is a restored Warsaw snowplow vehicle. After some time, steps were taken to restore an actual 620 bus to supplement the collection of historical rolling stock of the MPKSA in Krakow. This 1964 bus was acquired from outside Poland and transported to Krakow, where it underwent renovation for several years to return it to its original condition. This historic Icarus, number 118, was presented to the general public on June 11, 2017 in Krakow, and has since been one of the most interesting preserved historical buses in all of Europe. And so there it is, the story of the Icarus 620 in Poland. Now, this is only a very small part of the Icarus 620 story, and it's only a small part of the story of buses in Poland at that time. However, the 620 did pave the way for more modern buses in Poland in the following decade. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at the Icarus 620 in Poland. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye.